The Chinese Communist Party has hijacked the Stop Asian Hate movement and is trying to use it to silence criticism of its bad actions. Get ready for some hard truths here, everybody. Nobody likes to talk about this kind of thing. Any kind of hate crime is abhorrent, and it's something that we should all strive to work against. Any kind of racial discrimination and hatred towards anyone of any race, creed or color is something that should never be a thing. Having grown up in South Africa, racism, xenophobia, and hatred towards people because of the color of their skin is something that I'm quite familiar with. The fact is, to try and use something like an anti-racism movement for your own political agenda is disgusting, and I've been seeing this a lot with what's been going on with the Stop Asian Hate movement in America. And more specifically, how the Chinese Communist Party is using it to their benefit. I might upset a couple of people here because I'm speaking in facts, and unfortunately facts don't always line up with people's ideas of what's going on. But I have been giving these anti-Asian attacks a very close look over the past couple of weeks. I've been going through them on a case-by-case basis and trying to find out what the motivations behind these attacks are. And what I've been discovering so far is something completely different to the mainstream narrative and to what most people think. You see, the news, especially here in America, loves to focus on the negative stuff, loves to run with narratives. And every time you look at the news, you always see this, the poor grandmother that was hit in the face with swollen eyes and this terrible thing that happened to her and how she raised money and she's so generous to give it back. And I love that about that person. But there seems to be a hyper-focus on that person. There's also a massive hyper-focus on the Atlanta shooter, as if the Atlanta shooter is a racially based thing, which that's up in the air. I got to tell you one thing. If it was a racially motivated attack, I'm pretty sure he would have said so, because when people feel that amount of hatred towards a specific race or a specific group of person, that's kind of their mantra, that's their manifesto. And when they go ahead and kill people from that race, let's say, and they're caught, you bet your bottom dollar they're going to say that they're glad they did it and these were the reasons they did it, because of COVID or because of this or because of the unfair job thing, or there'll be something that they focus on. But, the guy had a weird religious, sexual, disgusting, weird thing that happened to whatever. The guy's a piece of shit. I'm not here to debate whether that was a racial or not. But from what I've been looking from a clinical outward look at that particular case, it doesn't seem to be racially motivated. It's more just a kooky, weird, disgusting person who has a problem and a mental issue, and that's why it happened anyway. That's besides the point. These are the hyper-focused ones. But why are we not seeing more? Why do we not see more about the other people that have been attacked? Because there have been some terrible attacks against Asian people in the United States and elsewhere, but we're talking about the United States mainly. And when I look up each individual case, I think it's fairly clear. Unfortunately, statistics don't lie. If we look at New York, which seems to be a hub for these attacks, of course, San Francisco too, places where there are a large Asian diaspora. Of the 20 people arrested in connection to these hate crimes, only 2 of them were white. The rest of them were black or Latino. And this is something that doesn't seem to be spoken about a lot. And I understand why, because it's a sensitive issue. People are trying to always push racism on white people. And if it's a different group of people that are perpetuating these hate crime attacks, these racially motivated attacks, and they're not white, it doesn't fit the narrative. And that's why it's either hushed up or not focused on. This is something that I'm going to look into even further, and I'll be talking about at length in the future. That is besides the point and not what this video is about. You see, the CCP and other pro-CCP sycophants, people that are trying to push the narrative of China, are jumping on this, and they are using this whole anti-Asian hate crime thing in order to silence criticism by attacking the West. They love that this is happening because it's such a useful tool to them. And as disgusting as that is, to use a horrible situation like this as a tool, this is something that the CCP is very good at and has been doing for a very long time. Now, riddle me this. Why, if you were to go to an anti-Asian hate protest, and your whole thing is you are against anti-Asian hate, and you get someone who maybe doesn't agree with you 100%, but they also are against anti-Asian hate, why would you try and censor them? This is what's happening in this video. This guy's placard says, hold the CCP liable, stop Asian hate. Yeah, maybe you don't agree with him. Maybe you don't agree that the CCP's got anything to do with it. But let's be honest, Uyghurs are Asian, Hong Kongese are Asian, Taiwanese people are Asian, Vietnamese people are Asian, all the different places, the Philippines, everywhere around China where China is like really trying to push and muscle people around and stuff. We're talking about a lot of Asians here. I mean, in the UK, we call Indian people Asian as well. So, they're all their little clashes, whatever. It ties in, and you still have the same message. I want to stop anti-Asian hatred. But why is that person being censored? The only reason that person is being censored is because the people there, including the security guy here, who is apparently one of the organizers, the only reason they would block a message that says the CCP, but still has the same core message of stop Asian hate, the only reason they would do that is because they themselves are the CCP, or they are affiliated with the CCP, or they support the CCP 100%. Because why would you care? If you're there against Asian hate and someone's saying has a placard, not even doing anything other than having a placard that says, stop Asian hate, hold the CCP liable, why would you care? It doesn't take away from the message. It doesn't stop the message out there, which is stop hatred towards Asians. There is also a lot of evidence coming to light that a lot of these organized protests are actually being set up by the CCP and people connected to the CCP. I mean, take a look at what happened in New Zealand, in Auckland. We've got a big protest there, but it turns out that a lot of CCP-connected people were part of the organizers. One of the organizers of the anti-discrimination Asian protests was a United Front member and a chairman of the Chinese Postgraduate Society. These are people that are responsible or answer directly to Beijing. The Chinese Masters and PhD Student Association was part of the whole organization, and they, of course, are supported by the Chinese consulate. The Chinese United Front is also been tied to organizing these things. Now, you might ask yourself, what's wrong with that? Why shouldn't a country take an interest in putting an end to racist attacks against their citizens abroad? I think that's absolutely fine. There's no reason why a country shouldn't do that. I'm all for it. If you see Americans being attacked in China or being discriminated against, the American consulate should get involved and try to educate people and try to organize protests. Although you can't organize protests in China, that's not possible. But, I have nothing wrong with that. But there's something underhanded going on here. And I can give you the perfect example. You see, the Daily Mao, which is another pro-CCP website news organization, they released a fake Facebook post by the Atlanta shooter. So we know there's this crazy Atlanta shooter guy who went out and killed not only Asian people, but white people too. And it's kind of infuriating to me that people just think it's Asians only. This guy's a disgusting person, killed not only Asian, he killed people. He killed white people, Asian people, it doesn't matter. He killed people. And it's not about race. It's about a psychopath who went out and murdered people. He's a murderer. I hate that people make it into this political race thing because evidently it's not. But the fact of the matter is, whether it is or not, you've got the psycho guy who killed a whole bunch of people, including 6 Asian people. So, this pro-CCP weird newspaper releases this fake Facebook post. And in this fake Facebook post, he is spouting anti-CCP rhetoric, saying, the Chinese government must answer for COVID, etc., etc., taking our jobs, the usual kind of nonsense. And here we see their intentions laid bare. The Chinese government and the Chinese CCP sycophants want people to believe that criticism of the Chinese government is connected to murdering Chinese or Asian people. That's their end goal. They want people to self-censor, or they want other people to censor people that have criticized the CCP or are criticizing the CCP, this tyrannical government. And I'm proof of that, because as soon as this fake Facebook post was released, people jumped on it, okay? A website that's set up in my honor, it's like a hate website, they in fact went as far as to say, I have blood on my hands, and they used this fake Facebook post as an example. Now, yes, I am critical of the CCP, and I am unashamedly critical of the CCP. I think they're a terrible government. And you can watch my videos. I criticize a lot of the policies, a lot of the societal issues in China. I criticize the CCP point blank, straightforward. You know, my recent video about housing bubble, for instance, I talk about how things work in China. I do not condone attacks against Asian people. I do not condone any sort of racial attacks against anyone. However, my experience living in China for 14 years, the fact that I went out and explored the entire country, I filmed a lot of things, I have a lot of video evidence, I have a lot of anecdotal evidence, I have a lot of experiences, things I've seen with my own eyes. This is worrying to a lot of the pro-CCP guys because it goes against the fake facade that the CCP puts out there. People like me are seen as very dangerous to the CCP because the truth is the enemy of the CCP. So what do they want to do? They want to shut people like me down. They want to shut down anyone who is critical of the CCP. So articles like this come out on this website that I have blood on my hands. And then they use this fake Facebook post of this Atlanta shooter as an example and basically say, look, the kind of things he's saying, he must have got it from people like me. And so I'm responsible, which of course is a bunch of malarkey and it's absolute nonsense. Not only that, scumbag sycophants on Twitter, etc. There's this one guy who's an absolute obsessed cyberstalker who follows everything that I do, watches every single one of my videos over and over and over again, trying to find any little thing that he can use as ammunition. This guy ran with this article, put my full name and, you know, my business partner C-Milk's full name out there and compared us to the murderer. And this absolute scumbag went out there with a huge audience to put this out there to basically say that I and my buddy C-Milk are responsible for the deaths of the people in Atlanta. Now, this is cancel culture, of course. This is a very straightforward. They want to shut me down. They want to shut down my friend C-Milk. They want to shut down news journalists. They want to shut down anyone who dares to speak the truth or speak against power, speak against the CCP. And that's how we can circle back to how the CCP has co-opted this Stop Asian Hate movement. They have realized the power that lies in the West's cancel culture, and they are trying their absolute best to leverage it and use it to silence people like me and others. That is why it is so important that you are here watching this video. Your support means absolutely everything, because unlike the sycophants and unlike these organizers, I'm not backed by the Chinese government. I don't have a government or an organization who's boosting me, paying me, or anything like that. It's you who watch these videos that keep me going. Thank you for that. These tragic attacks against people of Asian ethnicity are not to be used as a political tool for anyone. They're a terrible thing which need to be addressed, and they will be addressed. The people that are doing this are being held to account. They are being arrested. They will be dealt with by the law. And nobody is condoning this treatment of Asian people. Nobody who's sane is actually saying that's a good thing. Everybody who I know is completely condemning what's happening and hates these horrible perpetrators that are going out and doing this stuff. Don't let the CCP use our freedoms against us. Don't let the CCP censor you. Don't let the CCP censor anybody just because we speak the truth. The Chinese government is not Asians. The Chinese government does not speak for a race of people. The Chinese government is not the Chinese people. Until next time, guys, you know the drill. As always, stay awesome.